In the other forum on privacy, we were talking about the broad aspects of your rights and needs for privacy. In this one, we're going to be more specific, and this one focuses in on the digital fingerprints as discussed in the book. So you've probably never heard of a digital fingerprint before you read this chapter in the book, and the idea is similar to real fingerprints. When you move around the real world, you leave fingerprints everywhere, and you don't tend to think about that trail. When you move around in the cyber world, you leave a trail of digital fingerprints that tell people where you've been and what computer you were using and what exactly you were doing. Let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. So one of the first ways that you leave a trail without really thinking about it is something called geotagging. All of us who have cell phones are constantly taking pictures with our cell phones. Well, you take that picture and you don't realize that it embeds the GPS location of where the picture was taken. There was a really interesting article that was posted recently that studied the number of children's photos online and showed that the vast majority of children's bedroom locations could be identified within the house, not just the GPS location of the house, but they could tell you exactly which room was the child's bedroom, just because of the number of photos and the geotagging in the photo. There's an interesting article in the New York Times about digging information out of geotags, and I will have that posted to the discussion board. Now you might think that you're relatively tech savvy, now you've heard of this geotagging thing and you can turn off the GPS locations into your photos. But what if your friends don't turn it off? What if your friends are posting things all the time? What are your rights to privacy in this regard? How about another way in which we leave digital fingerprints? Another way is that we have our cell phone on. Well, our cell phone's on and we don't think about the fact that it's on in our pockets, but the cell phones are constantly pinging the towers so they know which tower is the closest one to them. Well, the cell phone towers keep records of that, so they know exactly where you were within at least a few mile radius at any time of the day. And another thing that we might consider that we think is private is our text messages. We're constantly text messaging each other back and forth. Well, those text messages are actually saved in the cell phone towers and in their central computer systems, and those can be subpoenaed, so they're not private like we think they are, and they do leave a trail of digital fingerprints. These digital fingerprints can be both good and bad. So imagine somebody hacked into your bank account. Well, it's bad that they hacked into your bank account, but on the other hand, when they're going out and spending your money, and when they were hacking into it, they left a whole trail of digital fingerprints that might enable the people to figure out who exactly it was that hacked into your account, and that's a good thing. As another example with both good and bad in it, consider that you perhaps are trying to not let the location of your house be known. Well, it might be findable from public records, and that's one form of digital fingerprints, but another way that you could find it is just that if you're constantly getting online, your IP address can be traced to an address a lot of the time. So if somebody's just trying to figure out where that computer is, well, if that computer's a hacker, it's a good thing that you can figure out what house they go to. But if it's somebody who's trying to hide, maybe it's not necessarily a good thing. So there are two sides to that coin of digital fingerprints. So for this discussion, I want you to consider those digital fingerprints themselves. In what ways do you mind being tracked with all these digital fingerprints? And in what ways is it okay to leave fingerprints behind? Likewise, in what ways is it not okay? Do you go out of your way to disable any of the types of tracking? And finally, since we're thinking globally, what are the benefits and what are the detriments of the digital fingerprints, both for you personally and for society as a whole?